Hi, folks. Mario Cavallo here with the Dragon Roars On. This is my response to such a wonderful request by Steve Guttenberg over at Audiophiliac. He just posted a video up and asked everyone to tell their audio story by the decades, how it all began and all the way through. And I immediately just thought of so many amazing, wonderful memories. What I noticed in all the comments so far is that the vast majority of guys are just like me. We're the ones who were young boys in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. And that's when we enjoyed what was happening in analog. We appreciate it more now than then. So I was born in 1960, and by the time I was about 9 years old, we were living in Yonkers, New York, typical Italian American neighborhood, And I remember it was my older brother, and he was down in our basement playroom area for all the boys in the neighborhood. And my best memory is that he had a Garage turntable. And I don't think it was a particularly expensive one. We were not wealthy people. We were typical middle class suburban Yonkers, New York, And he had a Garage turntable. I'm going to say Advent speakers, but I just can't say for sure. I know it was Advent speakers, and it was everything. It was just Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I guess later on, somewhere along the line, Barry White came along. But I have to go backwards before I go forwards, because when you go up the stairs into our living room, and this is traditional 1960s America. I mean, this is a throwback time, The suburbs of Yonkers, New York, near Yonkers Raceway along the Henry Hudson Highway, 20 minutes south down into Manhattan. We used to go every weekend to Little Italy and or Chinatown. I mean, just unbelievable. What a time growing up. What a wonderful nostalgic time. And my dad had the Fisher tubes. Now, he had this console that was I'd say it was about 10 feet wide. It was a beautiful full furniture console. And the two speakers, and I remember they were like 12-inch woofers with, I think, just a paper cone tweeter, in this beautiful wooden cabinet. And you opened the center of the cabinet doors, and solid wood. This thing was solid wood. It was gorgeous, gorgeous in our living room on Cowles Avenue in Yonkers, just down from the St. Joseph Seminary and St. John the Baptist Catholic Church on Yonkers Avenue. I mean, some of you got these memories with me, right? And in the center, inside that console, was the Fisher with 5 knobs. And I don't know, I can't say I remember what it was, a Fisher 500. I don't know, but it was the Fisher tube amp. And underneath it was a turntable. I guess it was a Fisher too that went with it. And those speakers. Can you believe it? I mean, somewhere along the way, my father gave that away. We didn't back then understand or know just how amazing it was, right? So fast forward again now, I'm in my 70s. We're in our 70s. Nothing changed until we moved. Then it was 1980, and we moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and that's when I got the audiophile bug. And I bought a Harman Kardon 40 watt per channel ultra linear DC something integrated amp, and a pair of large bookshelf stand mount speakers by Avid, AVID, the very famous editing bay software company in the professional production world. Avid 100 speakers. They were about I'm going to say they ran me $350, $400 the pair. The Harman Kardon was state of the art at the time. In that category, I spent a pretty penny on that thing. It was not like $150. It was a lot more money. It was like $400 or something. I can't remember the model number. And I had at that time picked up it must have been a Kenwood turntable with a Shure. I remember this part. It had a Shure M97E cartridge. And again, back then, I didn't really kind of appreciate it as much as I do now. The beauty of that decade was This was early 80s, right? So what happened? Anybody remember? Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs came out with their original master recordings, Audiophile vinyl, and I bought Joe Sample, Rainbow Seeker, and the Crusaders, and a bunch of other stuff. What a great time. And that was the 80s. Great music. And you know, looking back on it, that system wasn't so, I mean, the speakers were not super fantastic, but yeah, I spent my life in that room when I was after school and I wasn't playing basketball or, you know, chasing the girls, you know. So that was it. And then into the 90s, what happened into the 90s? I remember very well, and it's amazing. It was expensive DIY time. 1985, I had gotten married and we were in our own home, and I had bought what turned out to not be a good purchase. I'd bought, and you can look this up, a JVC. I wanted a really nice integrated amp, at least 100 watts a channel, and I trusted a guy that I trusted his recommendation, and he sold it to me. It was $400. He sold me a JVC AX7, and the AX9 would have been a good choice, but I bought an AX7. It turns out, you know what, that thing just didn't have much juice, at least from what I understand, it didn't. More importantly, there was an amazing DIY guy by the name of Matty Matthews who was hand building with pile drivers and hand winding the crossovers. He was hand winding he was using 12 dB network crossovers, so a cap and a coil, and he had it hooked up onto his computer oscilloscope to that crossover point, right? And he would wind the coils to that right inductance, and I don't know the technical words for it, so that crossover was so beautifully smooth. So he was running 6.5 inch and 8 inch and 10 inch and 12 inch pile drivers, PYLE the brand, very efficient, with pile, horn loaded, and I believe they were white fabric. They were white fabric, horn loaded pile tweeters, and they were all like 94 dB sensitivity. And I'm telling you, this guy handmade these speakers, and then he put them in thick MDF boxes and he spray painted them black. And I had him make me a pair in oak, a small pair. So I had a pair of the 6.5 inch two ways, and they were, looking back on it, how good were they in terms of compared to any like a Focal Studio monitor or something like that? They were that good and clean. And then I had to make me a two giant subwoofer cabinets with 15-inch piles, and on the front baffle he cut a hole and mounted that 6-inch two-way to the front baffle. So I now had a 6-inch two-way in a self-enclosed, so the mid-range tweeter were in a self-enclosed cabinet with the 15 underneath, with two giant, they were about 4-inch diameter ports. And again, he measured the ports for frequency, the length, the width. He measured the cubic inches of the port, the depth into the cabinets. And then he hand-coated those babies with three-quarter inch oak, solid oak. So the cabinets were that thick, 1.5 inches. Wow. That was my time into the mid-90s. Unbelievable. And then it ended for many, many years. I moved to Southern California, and then in 1999, I came to China. And it wasn't until about 2004 that I bought my next system, and that's when I went Chinese brands with French Triangle Sirius 202 speakers, French tower, the French brand, the tower speakers, which I sourced in the UK, bought them as a demo set. They were demo on the floor. They were $1,200 a pair. I paid about $700, plus I paid $200 for the shipping to have them shipped from England to me, to my home in Shanghai. And that was my Triangles. And I powered the front end with my first tube set. It was a hybrid Shengya A10MK Mark II hybrid integrated amplifier. The preamp front end was Russian AX7 tubes, and then a solid state amp, and then a matching with matching tube hybrid tube preamp in the matching CD player. Those two pieces, as the Vincent brand, in Germany were 1,500 euros a piece. I paid for them domestically here in China, the Shengya brand. I paid about $650 each for them for the domestic version, which was identical. It's an incredible story. I was just going to do the wrap. I'm going to do the wrap right now. But before I do, I have to tell you one more thing about that Shengya front end with the Triangle Sirius 202 speakers. I also bought some fancy cables. I bought locally. I had someone DIY make me a couple of power cords. I paid about $60 a piece for some custom-made power cords for the amp and the CD player. And also, I went with Morrow audio cables. I bought MA3s as RCA interconnects, and I bought SP4s to run bi-wires to run from the amp to the speakers. Hats off to Morrow Audio, I gotta say. The system really cleaned up. I mean, the bass cleaned up, the mids cleaned up, the highs were sweeter and cleaner. When I put the standard 12-gauge wire back on the speakers, the bass muddied up without a doubt. The bass got muddy and boomy. So I really enjoyed that with the Morrow Audio cables on there, and they were not that expensive. And this is just me telling you the reality. Yeah, check them out. And now the wrap. Several years without a system, and you know the rest of the story because I just this past year spent tons of research and trips to Guangzhou speaking in Mandarin with finding out the best of the Chinese gear. And here I am now, just now moving into the Amari LP10MK turntable. What a great buy. And the Junction JA88D, legendary from about 8-9 years ago. Legendary pure Class A 72-pound monster with amazing performance. Reviewed as having the build quality of a Macintosh MC162 and the performance, unbelievable. And the JBL 530 or 570 series speakers. And that's where we're at today. Thanks for asking, Steve Guttenberg. Appreciate it. What a wonderful opportunity to tell a great story and inspire other people to tell their stories. I'm Mario Cavallo with The Dragon Roars On. Right now I have a very special announcement and message for China expat guys like me who love Audiophile. The system I just described to you, the Junction JA88D, paired to the JBL 530s, is an incredible pure Class A amplifier and speaker combination. And again, those will be fed by the Amari LP10MK, and that is my meticulous research. You can get that audiophile system here in China from the Dragon Roars On, for 29,888 RMB. That's 4,500 US dollars. And more importantly, the special message I have for all of you as China expat guys here in China is that when you leave China, we will buy it back from you. We're offering you a guaranteed 40% buyback starting at 2 years to 4 years from your date of purchase. Now that's absolutely incredible, and it only takes an expat like myself to understand the expat issue. So many guys, we want to buy a great system. You know, and $4,500, I mean, look, you could spend a lot more on a system, but it's not chump change. It's not just a little bit of money. And the reason we want to buy nice things like our audiophile systems, well, we don't, because we're in China. You know, and we're saying to ourselves, you know, when I leave in 2 weeks, when I leave in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get stuck with it. No, you know, I'm going to put it up for sale and nobody's going to buy it. I'm going to get stuck with it. So what happens, you know, we end up giving away our $2,000 leather couches to our neighbors because nobody wants to buy them when we have the house sale when we leave China. Solve that problem for you. Peace of mind. give us a call, contact us. Let's talk about this. Putting an amazing, pure, beautiful, transparent soundstage audiophile system in your home, including the setup anywhere. We're coming to your home or your business space to install it and set it up for you. Take a look at the flyer. Take a look at the YouTube video that we have about the Dragon Audio set number 1, the Junction JA88D Pure Class A amplifier. What a monster. The JBL 530 speakers, stand mounts that we found, got lucky and found, and brand new in the beautiful cherry wood finish, and finally matched up with an Amari LP10 MK turntable with an 1895E cartridge. Folks, you've reached the point of diminishing returns with that system. About that $4,500 price mark, you'd have to spend. Oh, and by the way, that turntable, upgradable. You can upgrade the it's got a very nice preamp, but you can upgrade, definitely add some more quality by upgrading to an external preamp if you want to, and then upgrading that cartridge. It's a good cartridge. It's a very good cartridge. But you can upgrade it. In my recommendation, we're going to upgrade first that preamp, and then we're going to upgrade to the Nagalka MP150. So you got 2 upgrade paths for that turntable. If you want to do that as well, and you are done. And folks, beyond that, you are really at the point of diminishing returns. What a beautiful system. We'd love to talk to you more about it. Thanks very much.